So, from what I'm hearing, the Uber IPO party was it was a wild one. Hey everyone, this is Kevin the Apptrepreneur, and well, the Uber IPO. There was a story that we didn't hear about until a few days after the IPO because it's a story I'm pretty sure Uber didn't want to be in the paper. Now, when big things happen, we all celebrate. When it's our birthday, when it's Cinco de Mayo, when it's Thanksgiving, when we get engaged, when we get married, there's celebrations and, we like to celebrate. Sometimes we overindulge. Sometimes we drink a little too much. Sometimes we get a little bit more wild than we intend to. It happens. But Uber is a special case because under the reign of Travis Kalanick, Uber bro culture parties wasn't an exception. It was the rule of thumb. There were people who would just party and disregard the rules, and nobody thought twice about it because that's what was expected. It was what was allowed. And one of the things that Uber investors, early investors I should say, because now we have new investors for the companies, wanted to get rid of. They wanted to get rid of the bro culture. They wanted their employees to be responsible, to behave, and apparently they did until they went public. And once they went public, things got crazy, man. So it says here, hopefully Uber drivers on duty skipped these alcohol-fueled company parties. In-house bashes on the day the company went public reportedly got so out of hand that one was shut down and another employee was forced to resign after a drunken outburst, according to a new report. Workers celebrated with company-provided booze at Uber offices on May 10th as CEO Dara Khosrowshahi rang the opening bell at the New York Stock Exchange, the Washington Post reported, citing employees who said the parties made them uncomfortable and seemed immature. There's another thing we could take away from this article, like early on. It's kind of amazing what your employees will do when the boss is known to be out of the office and across the country, because Uber offices are in San Francisco, I believe, and Dara was in New York. Not only was Dara in New York, Travis Kalanick was in New York. Oh, yeah, anything pretty much went this day. The parties were reminiscent of Uber's bro culture Khosrowshahi had promised to help stop, and one of the reasons he was brought in. Old Uber hid themselves until today, apparently, one anonymous employee told the paper. Uber has been dogged by allegations of sexual harassment, wage complaints from drivers, and rowdy, inappropriate workplace culture. The U.S. Attorney General investigated the accusations and issued new employee guidelines that suggested limiting alcohol in the workplace, a memo that was apparently not heard. Company warnings to keep it classy during the recent IPO celebrations were apparently ignored in some cases. At Uber's San Francisco headquarters, the company provided champagne began flowing in the morning and continued through the afternoon, the Washington Post reported. Workers headed to the bars before returning to a beer and wine happy hour around 2 p.m. So they were partying before the IPO even launched. Imagine their embarrassment when they realize, oh, you mean our stock sucked? It tanked? We lost how many billions of dollars in value after the day? That must have been like a really tough pill to swallow. I'm betting some of the partying happened early on because a lot of Uber employees, like real Uber employees, actually get paid a little less than what you would probably normally get paid, but they had stock options. So once the company went public, it was time to cash out. Now, granted, they had to wait like 6 months. But, they were celebrating. We're going public. We're finally going to cash it out. We're going to be rich. Yeah, imagine their disappointment when the stock came out like a lot lower than they expected. Employees also cracked open bottles of tequila and whiskey branded with the old Uber logo. The bottles had been created during former CEO Travis Kalanick's time at the company. He was pushed out in 2017 amid the unsavory accusations. You know what? I'm hoping some of these bottles wind up on eBay. I would so love to have an Uber wine bottle. I would just love to see what it looks like. I'd love to do an unboxing of that. Hopefully someone puts it on eBay, preferably an unopened one. The partying continued well into the night, and in one case, a worker's car keys had to be taken away, according to an anonymous employee cited by the Washington Post. Now that last one, I'm gonna give them a little bit of credit. Again, when there's celebrations that come up, we tend to get a little rowdy sometimes. These things happen. And it's not unusual for keys to be taken away. In fact, whenever Katie is drinking, when she hits 2 to 3 drinks, I'm taking the car keys away. Because you know what? Hey, I'm going to drive for you. It's not that I don't trust you. I just don't trust anyone who's been drinking. So that's actually a very responsible thing to do. I don't know why the paper's wording that like it was a negative. Uber admitted it took action against some employees who did not celebrate responsibly, the paper reported. So, yeah, here's the thing. Is this ultimately the biggest deal in the world? No, it's not. I mean, people celebrate. They get a little tipsy sometimes. It was a day of celebration for Uber until it wasn't. And I'm glad they got their celebrating out of the way early, because if they saw the stock open and saw it go down, it might have turned from a drinking celebration party to a, dear God, how much money am I going to lose in 6 months sort of situation. But here's why this is important. Because this is the kind of behavior Uber had said they were beyond, and that they had gotten help for. Dara had turned a corner. The company wasn't like this anymore. And it was yet one more headline that an Uber, a public Uber, does not need. They do not need stories about strikes and protests and employees who are drinking so irresponsibly they have to resign. That's not the kind of story Uber wants in the paper, and yet that's the story that is winding up. And considering I keep hearing reports that a lot of Uber drivers, and we're going to talk about this later on, are happy that the stock is tanking, you know, they've got to be watching videos like this with a little bit of I love it. So, but at the end of the day, for most companies, this would have just been, we're celebrating, and maybe got a little out of control. And then it got re-controlled because, you know, people had their car keys taken away and stuff. But because it's Uber, because of their history, it represents a company that does not seem to have learned their lesson. But I'd like to ask what you folks think. Do you think Uber has learned their lesson? Do you think the media has blown this way out of proportion? I'd love to know. Comment below, like, favorite, share, subscribe. If you enjoy my videos, consider becoming a Patreon member. It's totally optional, of course, but even as little as $1 a month goes a long way to helping the channel run smoothly. You get access to my Patreon's exclusive blog. Also, if gas prices are getting to be a little expensive, check out the GetUp app below. You'll get cash back on every gas purchase you make. It's totally free. Check us out in the Apptrepreneur vlogs. It's a fairly new channel, and we're trying to put daily content up to the best of our abilities. And finally, if you want to talk to me or other rideshare people, check us out at the Apptrepreneur Hangouts on Facebook. And as always, flame responsibly. Have a good one.